I intended to start this presentation talking about all of this new technology in sports and all of these new creative outlets, and I realized that's where all of you work, so I scratched that. Then I was going to complain about the lack of discussions around women in sports today, so I had to just scratch that. But I'm ready. I was going to talk about the different roles women have in sports as commentators, as coaches, as officials, and as athletes and fans. We covered that too. So I am going to talk about the future of women in sports, but first I'm going to talk about myself. That's me. I'm a big sports fan. I grew up in Houston, so I love the Houston Astros. It's me at the World Series. That's also me watching the Houston Rockets miss 27 three-pointers in a row. You don't have to boo. I just talked about them missing 27 three-pointers. I'm in pain. I'm already in pain. The inside of the three-point line is not lava. I will pass that along if I get the chance. I'm a retired high school athlete, won the Texas 5A state championship 11 years ago. Scored a decisive 4 points in this game. Might have messed up the spread, but that's okay. But I think my playing sports was probably inevitable. My grandfather grew up playing basketball with future Hall of Famer Oscar Robertson. My grandfather didn't tell me about this documentary. I found it when I was Googling. Like, it just popped up, and nobody thought it was important to mention or like put in the family group chat, but that's okay. My dad played basketball at Northwood Junior College and then at Robert Morris University. Moved into a career coaching. That's my first championship. But I think the thing that influenced me to play basketball the most was probably the creation of the WNBA. Announced in 1996, it was launched in 1997. There were 8 teams, and there wasn't the first women's league. We heard about a women's basketball league in the late 70s and early 80s. There was the ABL at the time, but with the backing of the NBA, by attracting the most talent, by attracting the most fans, and building off the success of the women's team in the 96 Olympics, they were able to do pretty well for themselves and attract a lot of fans, my family included. Grew into my head a little bit, but this is the WNBA's logo now. They just did a refresh. It's in its 23rd season. There are 12 teams, 12 players on a roster. Salaries are hovering for rookies around $40,000 and for veterans between $115,000 and $120,000 a season. And you might be surprised to find out that they do in fact play the same sport as the NBA. I don't know if has anybody seen a WNBA game? A whole game. Great. So we're doing good. And a lot of people say that the WNBA, the quality is different from the men's leagues, but I'm gonna talk about that, hopefully dispel that notion a little bit. We'll take a look at the first example. Here we go. He's going in. No, he's not. It's a layup. Just kidding. No. Again, it's not great.
And Thompson hits the deck. This will be 5-on-4 for a while, but the Hornets turn it over.
Alley-oop. No. Okay, so the point is, you don't watch the NBA for the quality. So we're not done. We have another example.
Moving forward the rest of this season.
High
And then
pace.
you also have Kyle Kuzma,
Breaking
who's
a sweat.
out for a week. How do they handle his minutes? Brandon Ingram battling a shoulder injury. Tyson Chandler as well. So Lakers turned it over there.
I'm really proud of that one. The point is, right, men's sports isn't better, always, they can be faster or stronger, but that doesn't necessarily equate to better. So I'm here to talk about the future of women in sports, because ultimately the future of women in sports is the future of sports. It's not different. Again, they're playing the same game, 94 feet on a court, rim is 10 feet tall, 24-second shot clock. The ball is different, but they call timeouts, they run plays, they miss layups. what have you. So I think women's leagues, I'm gonna focus on the WNBA because I know basketball best, but I think women's leagues can really take charge of the future by looking at two things. Entertainment, because what is sports if not entertainment? You watch it to experience joy. You watch it, again, when your team misses 27 three-pointers in a row, you feel deep, deep pain. When there's a come from behind victory, you feel redemption. I mean, everyone's watched Rudy. And then you have technology, right? How can we enhance the player and fan experience to just improve the game, to improve what people are taking away from and talking about moving forward? So let's look at entertainment first. When you think about entertainment, you think about characters and stories. But you can't get to know characters and you can't learn their stories at halftime or in the pregame or in postgame interviews. So let's take a look at how other leagues have really done that. I grew up watching Inside Stuff with Ahmad Rashad, Summer Sanders in the 90s. Start my Saturdays watching cartoons. Around noon, Inside Stuff comes on, and it was an off-court look at the personalities in the NBA. That's what it was. What does that look like for the WNBA or for the National Women's Soccer League? Any 30 for 30 fans here? I've seen several. Yeah. How many of them are about women? Can anybody name one? Oh, right? Because there are only two. Out of 90 30 for 30 films, there are only two about women. They're about Marion Jones and her doping scandal, and then Tanya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan. So nothing positive. But we just learned that a young lady tried out for the Indiana Pacers in the late 70s, right? That sounds like a 30 for 30 I would watch. Finally, again, with this idea of high quality sports, men only play high quality sports, there's Hard Knocks on HBO about the NFL. You can't be good to be on this show. If you've made the playoffs the last 2 seasons, you don't have to be on it. The Cleveland Browns were on the show after going 0-for in a professional football season. So again, you don't have to be great, but what does that look like for the WNBA? If you had this type of coverage for those players, you could get to know them. So I'm gonna walk through a couple of different opportunities to tell stories and get to know players in the WNBA. In the top left, you have Jackie Young. She played for the University of Notre Dame. She lost a heartbreaking NCAA championship game on Sunday night. She had 24 hours from then to decide if she was going to declare for the the WNBA draft. That's Monday night. The draft is on Wednesday. So she declares Monday afternoon. She has to go shopping. She has to get to New York. She has to do her hair. That's a show. If Zion Williams had 24 hours after Duke loss in whatever round, you wouldn't hear the end of it. He had his Zion cam in the NCAA tournament just to see what he was doing. Guy couldn't pick his nose in peace, right? That is the extent of coverage. The second picture, if you can see what she's doing, she's definitely filing her nails. That's Liz Cambage. She plays for the Dallas Wings. Around the same time that LeBron offered the entire Lakers roster to the New Orleans Pelicans, Liz Cambage asked for a trade out of Dallas. But you didn't hear about it because LeBron was working his or whoever runs the Lakers was working their magic, right? Next picture, we have Breanna Stewart. She is a 2018 WNBA MVP, won a championship with the Seattle Storm. She ruptured her Achilles, and then a few days later, her coach, Dan Hughes, announced he had been diagnosed with cancer. How is that team going to recover, right? How is that team going to cope with dealing with those injuries, dealing with his diagnosis? Will he be able to coach? Who's going to step up in the interim, right? If that had been, again, an NBA team, we would be talking about that relentlessly. Stephen A. Smith would have so much to say. Next, we have Diana Taurasi. She had back surgery a couple days ago, expected to be out 10 to 12 weeks. WNBA season's only 15 weeks. Does she come back in time? Does she have complications like Steve Kerr? Does she have complications like Tiger Woods? Again, is Callan Callagher talking about this? Is this getting a whole rundown on every ESPN program you're going to watch that afternoon? Maya Moore is just sitting the season out. She wrote a Players Tribune op-ed, "I'm tired, I want to spend time with my family, I'll catch y'all next year." Like, that was it. That's the whole thing. It could have been a tweet, honestly. And then, like I said, 2 30 for 30s about women. Another great opportunity, I think, would be the hometown team, the Houston Comets, the first dynasty in the WNBA. You could talk about how Cynthia Cooper was in her late 30s when the league started, how she could have been more dominant than she was if the league had started 10 years ago. You could talk about Tina Thompson not wanting to come to the Houston Comets because she's from Los Angeles. You can talk about Cheryl Swoops getting pregnant and people being like, "Oh, you're ruining everything." But she still won 4 championships in a row. And then lastly, we could talk about Skylar Diggins. Skylar Diggins is a player for the Dallas Wings. She played at Notre Dame, very popular, works with Jay-Z, works with Puma. She's pregnant. What does that look like for her team? What does her recovery look like? What does her health insurance look like, right? You have a lot of things you can discuss if you just gave it the time. Or you could talk about this if you're a Los Angeles Sparks fan. Los Angeles Sparks just acquired Shanae Ogwumike from the Connecticut Sun, reuniting her with her sister, Nneka Ogwumike. Both were first-round draft picks. Both were rookies of the year. This is literally LeVar Ball's dream come true. This is all he ever wanted, and I don't think it's going to happen, but this is as close as we'll probably get. Give them a reality show, then do a second season with their aimless, kind of wayward friend who nobody knows what she's doing, but she's there collecting a check. I'm just pitching, we're just spitballing here. There are options, there are totally options. Or you could talk about motherhood. What is Steph Curry's daughter's name? What is Candace Parker's daughter's name? Cool, right? These are the women who are giving birth to these kids, right? They're giving birth, they're getting their bodies, they're getting back in shape, and then they're returning to compete at the highest level. You know, Steph Curry walking into the gym with his daughters, that's cool, but like, these are the people who are doing it. And that's a whole story in and of itself. That's a discussion in and of itself. How are these women deciding, hey, when is right for me to take a break from my job that's physical, where it's not like maternity leave, right? It's not an option. So these are just things you can continue to talk about. What do we have here? I'm gonna take a step back. And I bring up this idea of talking about sports, giving these women the coverage, because if there's anything we've learned is that no matter how much you talk about something, whether or not you like it, whether or not it's good, if you talk about it enough, if you see it enough, if you read it about enough, it permeates pop culture until at the very least you have an opinion on it. So the things I just showed you, LaCroix, that's popular now. You see it everywhere, but you can drink water. Nobody was begging to see the Kardashians make bad dating choices. If I wanted to learn about women making bad dating choices, I would just open my phone and talk to my friends. But there they are, right? You see it. You see all of these examples. So we've looked at entertainment. Next, I want to take a look at technology. And when I think about technology, I think about technology for players and for fans. For players, there's 2 things I want to focus on, right? We know women's bodies are more susceptible to certain kinds of injuries just based on the way our bodies are built. Who's developing shoes that can help prevent ACL injuries for women? Who's developing shoes that can help women when they're recovering from pregnancy? Who's developing jerseys or sports bras or anything that have padding for women, right? And then the second thing I want to look at is blockchain. The big buzzword for blockchain is a ledger. It's a ledger that tracks activities. For blockchain and for players using blockchain, it could be a look at the league's finances, the team's finances. So when they're negotiating the collective bargaining agreement, when the league's negotiating with their partners, right? It's a way to say, here, lay it all out. That's the information we have. For fans, I want to look at 2 things. Apparel, which isn't strictly technology, and then app experience. When it comes to buying WNBA apparel, it traditionally hasn't been easy. All the apparel I have, I've usually bought it at the stadium. But if we're able to track these users, if we know who's buying tickets or who's engaging with the team, we can make that available there, or we can run ads. The options are pretty good to just engage with fans where they are. In terms of the app, right, you want personalized content, you want all access content, you want in-game stats, localized information, just all of those kind of details. And those are things that are available in the NBA app. The WNBA app is there, it's good, it's got all the bones, but if you build out that information, right, you have access to more, players can know more obscure in-game stats, right? You know, for example, when Steph Curry, or what Steph Curry's shooting percentage is behind the right side of the three-point line, like on Tuesdays at Oracle. I want to know how Elena Delle Donne shoots, like when Mercury's in retrograde on Thursdays. Like, just very specific details that are available for the NBA and the NFL and other men's sports leagues that we haven't built out for women yet. Up here at the top, we have, I think it's Natasha Cloud Dancing. She plays for the Washington Mystics. I want more WNBA players as GIFs. I communicate very fluently in GIF. As a reaction, as a question, what have you. And sometimes I want to know who I'm GIFing or what GIF I'm using, and I'll look it up, like look up the origin. If you use this GIF and you look up the origin and you're like, oh, this is a WNBA player, that's cool, I didn't know, let me look more about this person, right? It's just another opportunity to connect with fans. And like, if you're a player, who wouldn't like your GIF becoming like a cultural moment? And if at first you don't succeed in developing the technology, just try, just keep trying until someone makes a movie about you, or until someone makes a podcast about you, or writes a book, or makes a documentary. Again, options are limitless. But the good news about all the things I'm saying is that it's happening now, right? The WNBA has announced a partnership with CBS to air 40 games, right? That's more than you're seeing now, and that's a really good opportunity. And then we have Nike has announced a partnership with the WNBA. Nike is already providing the uniforms, but they're doing more. They worked with the FIBA tournament in 2018. They're designing jerseys that are cut for women, so your sports bra isn't all out there, and the material is supposed to regulate women's body temperature better. And you know Nike and CBS aren't in this to lose money. They see an opportunity, right? And my hope is that other companies will start to see the opportunity as well, because the financial and social implications of partnering with these teams are pretty limitless. Almost done. This is my niece. This is Lily. She's 6. She's a brat. Total brat. And she's wearing Jordan brand. He retired 10 years. He retired for the last time, 10 years before she was born. He retired for the first time when I was her age. I wonder in 10 years, what brand will she be wearing? If leagues, if brands and sponsors are making the commitment to leagues and growing the presence of women's sports, like, is that gonna be Maya Moore? Is that gonna be some young lady who's in college now? Is it gonna be Kobe's daughter or somebody with their own brand? I guess in conclusion, right? My hope is that as you start to offer these leagues more coverage, more opportunities, more eyeballs, you tell more stories, you give people a stake, you have a Tom Brady to loathe, you have a Gary Payton that talks trash, you have a Bad Boys of Detroit type in the WNBA, you get more viewers, you get more eyeballs, you can demand more money from advertisers and partners, you can pay salaries that are better for your coaches and your players, you can offer more benefits for your players, and ultimately create a space where women are seen as equals in the sports space. And that translates into them being seen as powerful women on the court, as teammates, as businesswomen, as executives that they can all hope to be. So that's it. That's my talk on the future of women of sports. Thank you.